Hello everyone, and welcome to this new video. Today we're touching on text in Illustrator, a program that I use a lot in my graphic design work. And one of the things that when you ever do logos, you have to possibly create any textual logos. And if that is the point, or if that is happening, then you'll probably come across the craziest or weirdest or strangest things that you can do. But what are some of the basics that Photoshop has to offer in order to create these textual graphics? Now, one of the things that I want to touch on is a couple of very simple tricks, which is using the gradients and swatches to change our text, as well as using a drop-down shadow. Now, why do I use Illustrator for text? Why am I using it to create logos in the first place? Now, I haven't touched on that. I think I may have touched on that in the overall video. But I thought, you know what, maybe it's a smart idea to also touch it on in this one, just to give you guys a little tell about that kind of process. Because in Photoshop, in Illustrator, there's a big difference between the two. Illustrator is is not pixelated. Photoshop is pixels. It's all pixels, 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 pixels. Well, Illustrator is vector-based, which means that it's scratchable. You can size it up to buildings or even bigger. And that's why I prefer to use that program over Photoshop in any certain way when it comes to creating a logo for any brand, for any person. So, let's get further into the actual process of creating this textual logo in Illustrator. Now, as you guys have seen, I start off by using the text tool, and what I do is I use the left click to just create first a big block. Now, if you have a lot of text and you need it to be perfectly aligned, and it needs to be in different circles and all that kind of stuff, and you can press enter and stuff, you can just move it around, it will be fine, it can stay there. But I never use it for that. I just use it for small text. Now, to create that, I just click. That's all I do. I just click. That's it. I click, and then I just type the letters, and I'm using the caps lock red to get the text in. I'm using a free font from Google, which you can just get there on the Google website. If you type in Google and then fonts, you can basically find them all. I'm using the bold text for this example. Now I'm sizing it up to about 60 points so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. If I kept it too small, you guys wouldn't have not been able. Now I'm selecting the text. Now it's still text, you can still edit this. But after using the create outlines, you can no longer do that. Now it's just a block of text with points instead of the actual text. Now what you can do is you can ungroup these letters as well. You can resize them, change it. What I'm doing here is actually do a Control-Z to go back to the original, and then I'm going to use the gradient tool. Now the gradient tool is on the right side of me, and there are a lot of options. The gradient tool has plenty of options to use, and one of the things that I do is I select the text, then use the gradient tool, and actually change the gradient because I'm well, I want something more, it fits more with my mood for my graphics, so I'm using red, and I think I use even blue to just spice it up a little bit. Would I normally use this in a graphic? Probably not for a game design type of person. If a client is a game designer, probably wouldn't use it. But for this example, I thought it was fun to actually use these very abstract colors. Because of course you can use silver and gold. I've seen a lot of people use those. That's fine too. Everyone has their own taste. And what I'm doing here is I have it created and dragged actually by using on the left side the click for the gradient as well. I basically dragged a line of the gradient. Now to size it up again, it's actually pretty difficult because it takes a minute or two. So in the end, I actually just go back in and use a different one to change it in the end. Because it works way better like that. To just use it like, just use it smaller and I don't have to like change it again and move the points. I could just keep it the way it is. And I check it and then the text will actually be the size it is. But now the text is whole, loose. Now there's a couple of things you can do with the text. You can add, for example, we can add like line art. These are all the colors, by the way, that you have. For gradients, there are tons of them. And to see them all really clearly, I actually spice them up. And that means that I'm going to the little book thing, like the 3 little lines. And I change the lower thumbnails to show you guys more of how it looks like. And these are all pre-made swatches that Illustrator itself has in its books. Now, these are all CMYK, which means that they are used for basically when you print it. For print. This is all for print. For actual logos that you put on clothes and stuff, sometimes they want to get, like for some like business cards or something, they want to have Pantone colors, and those are really expensive. But even Illustrator has those books that you can use for that. Not all of them. There are a couple that it doesn't have. It depends on the person. But like I said, even the outline could be a different color. I'm not using it now because I don't like using it for this graphic. What I am going to be showing you is, because I'm going to group the entire thing again, is I'm actually going to look and see if I can edit the text. And what I'm also showing you guys is how to add like a glyph in this, like how to add glyphs in your text, which is also very simple by going to Window, Text, and then Glyphs. Attributes is also a thing that I show in this little part. Attributes is to like say you want the top line visible, the other line not visible. It's only for not interesting for what we're doing. That's more for like if you want to create boxes or stuff like that. We're actually more interested in using other tools like the effects. And one of the things that I actually do for fun, I actually use the actually, in the end, I do give it a red color, or pink color, I believe, the line. And I then use a brush to give it like a brush stroke. And a brush stroke always looks like a lot of fun. It can really enhance your thing. Now, then I actually went into the wrap options, which, as you can see, it doesn't work because I didn't select it. But in appearance, we have the option to add the drop-down shadow. Now, I'll tell you guys a little thing. When you do that, you have to go to, I believe, the top one. But I'm actually showing all of the options that you have. There's a lot of them. The game has like blurs and all that kind of stuff. And just like effect controls, which is even bigger. But we actually have to go to stylize and then drop shadows to create like a black shadow underneath it. Now the opacity here is 75%. In this case, we want to change that to 100. I believe I even do that. Also, I need to change the offset because I want it to be 1mm by 1mm. And in the end, of course, I also changed the opacity to 100. And then what we have left to do is change the blur. Now what the program will do is basically kind of like a load defect in. In the end, I changed the blur to 0, and that's why you get this, which is a very simple effect to change your text even more. Now, I then even changed the color of it, because you can change any color that you want. There's multiple options to use for the color in this case. And then I actually wanted to do something else because I wanted to select the only Illustrator bit, but that doesn't work because we're in a group and Illustrator doesn't like it when you're in a group to change that. So actually in the end we have to ungroup, and then our effect will disappear because we put it onto a group and we didn't put it on the not group. So I then just moved the Illustrator text underneath it because I kind of like that kind of style. I mean, keeping it at one line works as well, but I thought, you know what? This also looks pretty funny and actually makes me able to do an actual more type of like thing. So I'm actually using just typing GFX. And how I did that is I'm using the vertical text tool, which is if you go over to the text label and you right click it, it will show all these kind of options, and then I just use vertical. What I then do is I have a big line, like the text is pretty far from each other, and I change that up to -100. So the two letters are closer to each other. Now it doesn't underline perfectly. It is not perfect. It doesn't fit like the way that it's supposed to happen or supposed to be. I can increase the text. And then for some funny, weird reason, while I want to change the text to outlines, that actually still works. And that looks perfectly fine. And then when I apply the gradient to our graphic, in the end that works. But then the video literally crashes. So after I apply that trick, the Illustrator crashes. Well, that's not good. So then I actually restarted the video and I skipped the part of doing the gradient because I was like, you know what? It's not needed. The only thing that's needed right now is that I show you another tool that you can use, which is the type on path tool, which is also fun. So I actually then just create a little path here and just drag it along. The dragging looks absolutely horrendous. I actually did this while there was someone else talking to me in the room. We had someone here working on something, so I was actually also doing that, and I wasn't really 100% paying attention to what I was recording at that time. But in the end, I got it done, and I created this like half circle kind of thing, oval. It's a really weird shape, and I just keep it that way. It doesn't really have to be perfect. All I wanted to show you guys is how you use a text. So I just put some text on it. Like I say, hey, I think I even say hello or something. And you can just increase that text as well, make it bigger, make it smaller, like but it will always stay on that path, which is also super duper funny. In the end, I think I do delete it again because it looks absolutely weird and crazy. But that's fine. That's the way that this one works. And I believe I had to move it around or I deleted it. I don't know. But that's how it looks on a path. Oh yeah, I did delete it in the end. But that's fine. I deleted it off because that was one of the showings on how you could also do the text. Then I type in hello again to say hello to everyone. And I use the wrap options. Now I showed this before when I was working on it and on the other text. And these are actually all the options that you have. There's a lot of options to kind of wrap your text. And the wrap text is usually used to just like spice up the text. You can use this in your logos if you want. It's not a most common thing to use though, but it can be a lot of fun to like test out and play with. I usually just play with it, see what works. I've seen a lot of people use it in different ways. And in this case, I'm like, okay, this looks nice, but I want to be able to like finish it and make it look nice, but I can't create outlines because, you know, it's not form, it's still like a path thing, it's still like kind of crazy. So I go to this like little star option on the top, and when I click that, it basically creates it into an actual shape, and then I click on create outlines, and after that it's shape, so you can basically move it around and it will be types of text. And that's actually it. That's actually all the tips that I have for you on Illustrator. I know it's a lot to process. It might be smart to rewatch this or check the ebook that is coming, which is going to be full of other more tips and tricks. This one is just to kind of like show you how I do it, how I work usually, because this is not like an official like video for an actual like graphic design work. This is not for a client. It was just for fun to show you how Illustrator will work with this. I even know that the GFX is absolutely not outlined, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that I hope you could follow this tutorial easily, and that you learn something from it, and that you will explore it yourself. I think one of the assignments for this video and these videos on Illustrator are actually part of that, like explore and play with it yourself. Play with the tools and like design something, but just clicking and clicking and clicking and just play with it. Because the best way to teach programs like Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, whatever you want to use, Premiere, the best thing you have to do is learn by just doing it. Not by waiting and just sitting around and thinking all these programs are going to do it for me. Absolutely not. The best way to learn is to do it step by step and by yourself. So I hope this video was entertaining for you. I hope you learned something from it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, guys.